Welcome to the virtual reading fair day 13 evening session. My name is Hannah Chan, I'm 6 years old, and I'm going to the first grade.
Thank you, Harry.
Lynette Stafford, Greenville.
Harry Hardy, Greenville.
Vicky Jenkins, co-chair of the Community Library of Mississippi.
Meredith McGEE, Jackson, Mississippi, capital city.
William Trash, author of Reverse Guilty Plea in the New Populist Party, Jackson, Mississippi.
Dr. Janice Neal Vincent, Madison, Mississippi.
Okay. Lynette, you ready? Let's read.
I am. All right, we're back. Talking
Mama, you're in the restroom.
by Joan M. Lexau. Book from 1964. Illustrated by Don Bonganese. All right, Dow Press, New York. Well, we started out with Benji and his grandmama getting ready to go to church. And grandmama put on her earrings. And they went to church, and after church, they stopped at the bakery and got their Sunday treat and went back, and we headed back home. And something happened. Suddenly, Granny started walking to put her hand up to her ear. My earring, she screamed. I lost my earring. Sure enough, Granny had only one earring on. The other earring was gone. Benji's granddaddy had given those earrings to Granny the day they were married. Benji didn't remember his granddaddy, but Granny talked about him a lot and about the old days so long ago. Now, after all these years, one of the earrings was lost. The last Granny remembered feeling them both bobbing on her ears was when they left the church. They went back the way they came, the way they had come, searching the sidewalk for the earring. Finally, Granny straightened up and said, I don't see how we're going to find it, Benji. That earring could be anywhere. Maybe someone found it by now and took it away. But Granny, we have to find it, Benji said. Granny looked so disappointed that Benji was ready to cry. Now here they are looking for the earring. This is the scene on the cover. So it's the same thing. Benji's looking under this truck. He's on the street. That's the cover. Granny said, now look, Benji. Now look, Benji, haven't I had the joy of those earrings all this time? And I still got one to look at and remember. Maybe the good Lord did this as a lesson to me for setting so much store on trinkets. You and I won't waste any tears crying over it. We'll just go home. They are so sad. Granny had those earrings her whole married life. She don't want her baby to be upset though. They went home, and after they ate the cookie and turnover, Granny decided to take her afternoon nap before dinner instead of after. You just play quietly for a while and keep your good clothes clean, she told Benji. Instead of playing, Benji sat on the floor and thought, why would the Lord want to lesson Granny on those earrings, he wondered, or did he? Granny had just said maybe, but maybe they just hadn't looked long enough. What we ought to do is go back and look some more. So this is him. They've had their cookie in their pie. You're cooking the turnover, okay. Benji started to tell Granny so, but she was already asleep, and he decided not to say anything. Then he had a better idea. Why shouldn't he just go on his own? He wouldn't have to talk to anyone to look for the earring. He started out quickly before he changed his mind. Noiselessly, he went out the door and closed it gently behind him. There's Granny taking her nap. When she got downstairs, there was Mr. Atkins sitting on the door stoop again. Benji tried to get around him before he could be seen, but it didn't work. Atkins stood up and hit Beth and said, "Why, hello there, Benji." Benji looked around for somewhere to hide. "Come on now, say hello to me just this once," Mr. Atkins said. "You might find out it isn't so hard." Benji opened his mouth and tried, but nothing came out. "I see your lips moving, but I didn't," Mr. Atkins said. Benji tried again, but only the tiniest whisper came out. "Well, that's a start," Mr. Atkins said. "Try it once more." Benji took a deep breath and opened his mouth wide and hollered, "Hello, hello, hello." He put his hands over his ears to shut out the sound. He never made such a racket in his life. He streaked around Mr. Atkins and down to the corner where Granny had first missed her earring. Poor Mr. Atkins trying to be neighborly. Resting for Benji out. He waited on the corner until some people came along so he could cross the street with them. On the other side, he walked down the sidewalk, looking first to one side and then the other, keeping his eyes glued to the ground. All of a sudden, he bumped into somebody. He waited, holding his breath to get yelled at, but nothing happened. "I'm sorry," he whispered and looked up. It was a lamppost he bumped into. He giggled and looked around to see if anyone had seen him. Nobody had. Benji went on searching, looking at every little inch on the sidewalk all the way to the church. There was no sign of an earring. Somebody must have found it, as Granny said. He turned around and slowly began walking home. All right, I'll pick up tomorrow. We'll find out what happened.
Well, I like those illustrations.
Yeah, I do too.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Now, and where did they live? It looked like they lived in a urban large city. From the looks of the street.
It could have been New York, you know, and then and they talking about they lived in like a 4th floor walk up, and they had this bathroom with people on the floor. That's city stuff.
Yeah, she was. Well, very good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna read.
I'm enjoying it.
I'm gonna read a little. Let me find it. I see it.
Meredith is finding her piece. Last 2 weeks ago, when I was at home and they took down the flag, my sisters and someone just kept saying, "Where's Charles? Where's Charles?" I know Charles has something to say.
Oh yeah. What did he have to say about it?
He didn't say. We never heard. He didn't say. But my mother said this week, someone said, "Well, I guess Charles, after that flag was taken down, Charles says, okay, I can go on now."
Oh yeah. What did your mother have to say? How did your mother?
She's okay. We had to keep her and make her smile a little bit. She's all right.
I mean, what did she have to say about the flag coming down? And how old is she? And your father? What did they
My
have
mother,
to say?
oh, my mother's 92. She didn't say too much. That was my sisters and brothers talking about it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna do Charles Evans. It's a short piece from his family. In memorial, Mr. James Charles Evans. He was born September 11, 1922. Wow. I think my grandfather Might be his birthday. And he died July 22nd, 20. Statement from the Evers family. Via WLBT. This morning, the world lost another fearless civil rights leader. Honorable James Charles Evers, brother of slain civil rights leader Medgar Wiley Evers, passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family at the home of his daughter, Charlene Evers Creel. One mission in the life of Charles Evers was to advance work of his third brother, who was assassinated on June 12, 1963. After the assassination, Charles Evers rushed to Jackson to continue fighting for equality, take his brother's place as field secretary for the Mississippi NAACP. In 1969, he became Mississippi's first black mayor since Reconstruction in the biracial town of Fayette, Mississippi. After serving as mayor, he returned to the airways with his radio program, Let's Talk, on WMPR 94.1. What's up in Jackson, Mississippi? Our family appreciates the outpouring of affection, love, and support shown over the years. Okay. Our family appreciates the outpouring of affection, love, and support shown over the years. While our family is heartbroken by our loss, we are proud of the legacy he leaves behind. His voice will be missed, but will sound over his home state of Mississippi. Honorable James Charles Evers lived 97 years old. Our sincere gratitude, the Evers family. See more next week. And that was something that and his book Have No Fear was absolutely one of the best memoirs I ever read in my life. I had heard older men in the neighborhood telling me some of the stories that was in the book, but it was actually something to hear that their stories were actually true when I read the from the perspective of the person who lived the life, which is Mr. Charles Evers. So any comments or?
When he interviewed me for my 2 books, that wasn't too long ago. The New Papa's Party interview was only about a year ago, and the reverse guilty plea was back in 2013. His mind was as sharp as a tack.
And just imagine he was about 95 then.
He was 95 then, and we'd guess he was a day over 60.
Yeah,
And he told you, come back anytime. This radio program, what they were just talking about, is your radio. This belongs to the community. And then this just said he started in 1969. I never knew that.
1969.
Started that radio program. And I also read in the New York Times or somewhere that he used to be a disc jockey. I mean, that was one of the things. But I thought that was it.
He never missed a beat. He was just so sharp and as sharp as a tack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Charles, my husband always tells a story about, well, it's not a story, the times when their family home was bombed, and Medgar came out to the house. So that's why I left to get this picture. Charles has held this. It was printed in Jet magazine, and Charles has printed. Well, I'm not sure. It's an old Jet, but Charles did research and found the article, and it's his picture with Medgar, but Charles took the picture. Here it is.
Hey.
My husband.
Oh, okay. Your husband.
Charles was probably 8 or 9 when it happened.
Wow.
And Medgar came out to their house, and Charles came along and took the photo. So
Hold it up for me.
can you see it?
Yeah, hold up a little more. And what year was that?
Well, Charles was 8. He said he was probably, Charles, how old were you? He was 10. Charles was 10. 10 years old.
What year was that? Did their house burn?
It wasn't burned, it was bombed. They threw a bomb, a shot in the house. They what? They shot in the house. You know, when they would drive through and shoot in your house.
Yeah, they invented drive-by shootings. The Klan invented drive-by shootings.
Yeah.
So
They shot to Charles' house.
They shot into their family house. Yeah.
Somebody belongs in his house belongs to the NAACP?
I don't know. Charles, come here.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably so. One of them, or some kind of civil rights organization for shooting.
Now that was near Philadelphia. That was in Carthage, Mississippi, near Philadelphia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Charles said he was 9 years old when they unearthed those boys, and he was driving at the time. So he drove by and saw the unearthing.
Mm-hmm.
He won't come in here, but anyway.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that piece of history.
Thank you.
So it had to be in the early 60s.
Yeah, it was early 60s.
So yeah, McGEE was assassinated June the 12th, 63. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. So.
Well, you have to show that to me, Mary, when I see you again.
Yeah, you might well go on and take a picture of it and share it on Facebook so we can all look at it and share it.
Well, I'm sure it's been shared, but we have this little book that we keep it in.
Okay, so who's next?
I'll go ahead and go. This is Bernie Sanders' book, Our Revolution, Reforming the Federal Reserve. Lastly, we must fundamentally reform the Federal Reserve System to make it responsive to the needs of ordinary Americans and not just billionaires on Wall Street. The Federal Reserve includes 12 regional banks and a national board of governors. When the financial system was on the verge of collapse, the Federal Reserve Board acted with a fierce sense of urgency, offering $16 trillion in virtually zero interest loans to banks and corporations throughout the world. The Fed helped save Wall Street. However, it did little to save Main Street. And as a result, millions of families saw their standard of living decline and their hopes for the future dim. The decisions of the Federal Reserve made during the 2008 crisis sent a very clear message. While the rich and powerful are too big to fail and are worthy of an endless supply of cheap credit, ordinary Americans must fend for themselves. This was a clear case of socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for everyone else. But it doesn't need to be this way. The Fed was never supposed to be concerned just about Wall Street. Americans deserve a central bank that works for them and not just for the big banks. We must reform the Fed to make sure that it fulfills its full employment mandate, increases wages, and rebuilds the middle class with the same sense of urgency that it showed when it saved Wall Street. Let me outline how I believe we can do that. First, we must strengthen rules that prohibit commercial banks from gambling with the bank deposits of the American people. The Fed has made it clear to large financial institutions that the era of excessive speculation is over. Second, the Fed must stop providing incentives for banks to keep money out of the economy. Since 2008, the Fed has been paying financial institutions interest on excess reserves parked at the central bank. Reserves that have grown to an unprecedented $2.2 trillion. Instead of paying interest on these reserves, the Fed should charge banks a fee the Small Business Administration should use to provide direct loans and loan guarantees to small businesses. Third, a condition of receiving financial assistance from the Fed. As a condition for receiving financial assistance from the Fed, banks must increase lending to credit-worthy small businesses and manufacturers to foster job creating, a productive economy, and reduce credit card interest rates and fees, and also help underwater and struggling homeowners. Fourth, we must eliminate blatant conflicts of interest at the Fed. The reality is that the Federal Reserve has been hijacked by the very bankers that was in charge of regulating. Since the 2008 financial collapse, at least 18 current and former Fed board members have been affiliated with banks and companies that have received emergency loans from the Fed during the crisis. Fifth, we must make the Federal Reserve more transparent. Too much of the Fed's business is conducted in secret, known only by bankers on the various boards and committees. We must require Government Accountability Office to conduct a full independent audit of the Fed every year. Currently, the Federal Open Market Committee does not release full and unredacted transcripts of its meetings to the public for 5 years. We must require the committee to release these transcripts within 6 months. If we had made this reform in 2004, the American people would have been warned about the housing bubble well in advance of the financial crisis. The bottom line is that we need a Federal Reserve that works for all Americans, not just for the chief executive officers of the large financial institutions.
Transparency helps with trust. If I know what you're doing, I can trust what you're doing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us a summary of what you were talking about in terms of the Fed.
They need to be accountable, and they need to not have so much secrecy around them. They need to be directly accountable to the American people, and there needs to be more even-handedness between how they deal with Wall Street and Main Street. And Main Street needs to have more say and not Wall Street, you know.
Yeah.
Who's considered Main Street?
That's just the average American citizen. Where rich and powerful bankers. Wall Street's the only one that's benefited for the most part, you know, lately. And now Main Street is just the average American citizen who always comes up short when it comes to dealing with the government, you know, with the Federal Reserve and everything, you know.
I thought Main Street was kind of like the small business on Main Street, like
that's basically
the mom and pop, and also the
Regular people on
regular people that own business.
Yeah.
Wall
Street. Wall Street, like the Goldman and Sachs and all the major corporations and all the big corporations, you know, Walmart, all that, you know, that own everything, you know.
But I can see I could be a citizen because in Wall Street, you have the real large, wealthy investor, and then you have the average person that has a 401k or a small holding of stocks or funds or something like that. I can see how Main Street could be a citizen or a small business.
the Federal Reserve needs to be more accountable, and they need to make it where the American people can see what they're doing, you know, and not hold it back from them, you know.
Yeah, but more transparent, so everybody can know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, that's not the American way because the wealth gap is bigger and bigger. You have the CEO of a corporation that's making 20 times more than the no wage worker.
And that's done according to the way Bernie Sanders wants it done, you know. It never is done that way in actuality, you know.
Yeah, that's why he wasn't. That's why they wouldn't pick him because he was too progressive toward trying to do something for poor people. I think
that's why he didn't win.
Yeah,
because he was considered too much socialist.
See what they do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The CEO continues to reap money, but the workers are continuing to ask to take cuts in pay, cuts in benefits, furlough. But the CEOs are racking up, and the CFOs, or whoever, you know, the board people or whatever, they're racking up. But they're saying we're broke, and they want people who are already at minimum wage or whatever to keep on taking these pay cuts and keep on taking these cuts and these benefits. Before you ask me to do that, how much, and then they turn around and pay them a bonus on top of that. They cut the working folks, and then they get a bonus.
Yeah. Well, Harry, do you understand? Harry, do you understand any of this?
In whose pocket is all this money going to?
Yeah,
the rich people on Wall Street.
Harry, do you understand any of this? I can't hear you.
Harry, your mute is on.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Oh yeah. Well, you have a book that talks about the king and the peasants. You understand that?
No, ma'am.
Well, in Mississippi, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, and then you have some people who make like a doctor or lawyer $300 an hour. Do you see the difference in pay?
Yes.
If you make $7.25 an hour, and they cut you down because this is the pandemic from working full-time, working part-time. And you can understand that concept and how that would hurt your pocket to be able to take care of your family. You understand that? That's what we're talking about, the wealth gap between the have and then they call it the have-nots. You understand that?
I want to point out something else, that the average worker does not get sick leave anymore, and also they don't get paid vacations and the benefits that they used to get, you know.
Not even at Walmart?
A lot of places don't offer. I'm not sure about Walmart, but a lot of places don't offer sick leave or paid leave or paternity leave for mothers having kids. They don't even offer that anymore, you know.
Yeah, I tell you, that's something. Well, who's reading next?
Let me just make a comment about that. It seems to me that in this pandemic, we shouldn't even be in any kind of class structure because it's not the fault of the people. And when they first started out talking about the stimulus checks, there were people who still did not get those checks, and they've been complaining about that. It's not the people's fault in terms of what has happened. The system needs to work with the people. And that just tells me that there is no intent from the Trump regime for that to take place. This is the time, if no other time, because the people need to be protected. And that is just not right the way that things are being done. The people need to be protected. And I'm hoping that the protesting will continue. I'm hoping that it will not let up, because once that happens, then that says to administration that, oh, everything is all right. And we go back to so-called normalcy. Well, everything is not all right, because people are not able to take care of themselves, let alone their families. It is not right. And that no one should be penalized here in terms of a pandemic where people have to be at home with their children, are struggling now in terms of they're going back to school, not going back, going to summer camps, and being impacted there at the camps. This is really a big mess.
It really is.
And there should be no way that people should be lined up miles and miles and miles just to get a box of food, or miles and miles and miles just to get a testing, and then the answer is not back until a week or two later. What good is that when they have to start all back over in the line? That's crazy.
Yeah. It really is.
And the medical professionals are seen as dunces in terms of Donald Trump with his disrespectful self. It's crazy.
Sure.
People
Well,
should
now-
not have to be in limbo wondering how they are going to eat, how they are going to pay their light bills or any other bills. They just should not be in limbo with that. And it can happen to anybody. So it's a disgrace for America that has never been America. It is a real disgrace. And that just tells me that based on the system not even having wanted us to be over here, just using myself as an example, nothing has changed. The more things change, the more they stay the same. We didn't ask to come. We were dragged over here against our will. Everything was taken away from us. And all the laws that have been designed, they came along in terms of after slavery to keep us in our so-called place. And to see the way the immigrants are being done in terms of the so-called melting pot. They stopped talking about melting pot years ago. I've not heard that term in a very, very long time. I think I've been the one speaking it of late. And so where is it with give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses? What in the world is the Statue of Liberty still standing up there in New York for? It doesn't make any sense to me. The people should not be penalized because of this crooked regime that has taken place. This is an Al Capone territory that we are now in. America doesn't know what she is. She's still struggling. She's so fickle-minded. When somebody gets in who's sane, she punishes him. And so it's awful. And they didn't even give Hillary Clinton a chance, who actually won. Didn't give her a chance.
Yes. Well,
so it's really crazy.
Can we go ahead and let Harry read? Because Harry, you can come back.
Oh, he left when I was talking. I'm so sorry.
Harry.
That's when I was talking.
That's all right. He'll be back. He's coming back.
He died. Yeah,
We needed to hear that. We need to hear it, Dr. Benson.
Well, I can share Choice, a tribute by Alice Walker, the tribute that she pays to Dr. King.
Okay. Okay.
You want me to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. My great-great-great-grandmother walked as a slave from Virginia to Eatonton, Georgia, which passes for the Walker ancestral home, with 2 babies on her hips. She lived to be 125 years old, and my own father knew her as a boy. There is a cemetery near our family church where she is buried, but because her marker was made of wood and rotted years ago, it is impossible to tell exactly where her body lies. In the same cemetery are most of my mother's people who have lived in Georgia for so long, nobody even remembers when they came. And all of my great aunts and uncles are there, and my grandfather and grandmother, and very recently, my own father. If it is true that land does not belong to anyone until they have buried a body in it, then the land of my birthplace belongs to me dozens of times over. Yet, the history of my family, like that of all Black Southerners, is a history of dispossession. We loved the land and worked the land, but we never owned it. And even though we bought land as my grandfather did after the Civil War, it was always in danger of being taken away, as his was during the period following Reconstruction. But in 1960, my mother bought a television set, and each day after school, I watched Hamilton Holmes and Charlene Hunter as they struggled to integrate, fair-skinned as they were, the University of Georgia. And then one day, there appeared the face of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What a funny name, I thought. At the moment I first saw him, he was being handcuffed and shoved into a police truck. He had dared to claim his rights as a nation and had been arrested. He displayed no fear though, but seemed calm and serene, unaware of his own extraordinary presence. At the moment I saw his resistance, I knew I would never be able to live in this country without resisting everything that sought to disinherit me. And I would never be forced away from the land of my birth without a fight. He was the one, the hero, the one fearless person for whom we had waited. I hadn't even realized before that we had been waiting for Martin Luther King Jr., but he had. And I knew it for sure when my mother added his name to the list of people she prayed for every night. The public acts of Dr. King, you know, they are visible all around you. His voice, you would recognize sooner than any other voice you have heard in this century. This in spite of the fact that certain municipal libraries, like the one in downtown Jackson, do not carry recordings of his speeches, and the librarians chuckle cruelly when asked why they do not. And if you have read his books, you know that his is a complicated and revolutionary philosophy that few people are capable of understanding fully or have the patience to embody in themselves, which is our weakness, which is our law. And if you know anything about good Baptist preaching, you can imagine what you missed if you never had a chance to hear Martin Luther King Jr. preach at Ebenezer Baptist Church. You know that this very room in this very restaurant was closed to people of color not more than 5 years ago, and that we eat here together tonight largely through his efforts and his blood. We accept the common pleasures of life, assuredly, in his name. He gave us full-time use of our own woods and restored our memories to those of us who were forced to run away as realities we may each day enjoy and leave for our children. He gave us continuity of place, without which community is ephemeral. He gave us home.
Very good. And you mentioned two words that really struck me: dispossession and disinherit. Now,
Yes.
those are things that our community are going to have to work on fixing. Have ownership and possessing and inheriting and being able to pass down land or things of value to our family members, because that actually gives people a heads up in life inheriting something. But if you're disinherited, you can't pass nothing down.
That's right. Can't pass, and time is long overdue for the possession and the inheritance.
Yes.
Long overdue. We see the system is not going to help us with that. So we have to do just like the mayor there in DC did, have them out there doing Black Lives Matter. We have to do just like that to get the attention of the White House, the United States, and the rest of the world. We have to take charge.
Yeah, we have to build our own wealth, just like you said, and build wealth and build possessions and build something to inherit and to pass on to the next generation.
Have you heard about Susu?
Go ahead. What's that, James?
I was asking, has anyone heard about Susu? That concept of Susu, S-O-U.
No, I haven't.
It's a savings kind of thing that came from the Caribbean, came from Africa, and some other place I can't remember now from my reading. But different ones come together who can trust each other, and they may invest $100. Everybody would put in $100 in the pot, and within about 6 months or however many months they give, it will start leaking out to the first person. The first person may get $600, and then they keep on putting in the pot. Then it goes to another person and another person as a mechanism of not obtaining a loan from somewhere and paying into a system that is no good for them to save. And so that's a way that people can rise above where they are. If they want to, for instance, start a business, then they would have some capital to start that business or whatever they want to do. And it just continues like that within those people who trust each other. Like people within your family, there are 10 people or maybe a few friends and family, whatever the case may be. That could be one way to help with this that you've been talking about the dispossession.
Yes. And like in our family, we have 24 people that have an investment club, which is similar to in the 1970s, they were building co-ops in the Mississippi. Samuel Hamm and some other people were a part of pooling their resources together and doing agriculture venture. So, Harry, you ready now to take us away?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, tell us what you're reading and show us the book so I can write it down.
Can pig nap?
Would it say that again? Can
pig nap?
Oh, okay. I guess so.
Tap and tap, tap, tap. Can I nap on my bed? Tap and tap, tap, tap. No, no nap. Can I nap on my chair? Can I nap on my chair? Tap and tap, tap, tap. No, no nap. Tap, 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 tap. Look at cat. Cat can nap on the mat. Tap and tap, tap, tap. Look at duck. Duck can nap on the yellow pillow. Tap and tap, tap, tap. Can I nap? I can nap The end.
N-I-N. 10 p.m.
And it's a level 2 reader. It's a level 2 reader.
Well, very good. And that's good to know that the pig have to take a nap too.
They do. They do.
It's a level 2 reader.
Level 2.
Okay, and I just wanted at a level 3. Well, I want to ask you something, Harry. You've been hanging in there with us. Just tell us a few things that you learned or experienced in the virtual reading fair.
I learned about Indians. I learned about Buffalo soldiers.
Okay. And when you go back to school, are you going to be physically going to school, or are you going to be going to school virtually, like on Zoom?
I don't know. My mom said I'm going to school.
Okay. Well, we certainly have enjoyed bonding with you and getting to know you on Zoom, and I think
Yes.
a great experience. I have a 6-year-old teaches about pigs and flies and animals and all the things that you taught us and opened our minds. Stories.
Monkeys.
Yeah, we thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, so if there are not any other comments or whatever, I'll let Harry take us away, and I'll see you guys in the morning. I'll be sending you an email shortly here.
Okay, thank you. I think Harry has grown. He looks more mature.
Yeah.
He
He is a leader. Harry is a leader.
Yes, his leadership.
He knows how to open, he knows how to close, and he knows how to conduct a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
good.
Very.
Very good. Yeah, you're a learner. That's good.
Well, all right, Harry. You can take us away.
Thank you for attending this Zoom. I hope you can attend the next Zoom tomorrow, day 15. Thank you for attending this Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
see you guys
you.
later.
Thank you. Very nice. Woo. See y'all tomorrow.
Okay, see you
Well,
later.
have a good day.
Bye-bye.